Hi friends, welcome to episode 6 of the FibreBound Podcast. My name is Alexandra. I'm coming to you today from Adelaide, Australia, where I live with my husband, my 2 sons, and our lovable dog named Shorty. Today is Easter Monday, and it's been an amazingly beautiful weekend for Easter this year. We've had sunshine. It's been a little bit hotter than usual, to be honest. Normally this is autumn, so we start to get cozy around it this time of year, but this year has been very warm. But it's been really nice as well. It's been quite lovely to just enjoy those last bits of the summertime feelings before we do cool down and get into real autumn. You can find me on Instagram as FibreBound, and I am on Ravelry as Ali Pay. Thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to returning viewers. Thank you so much for coming back and sharing some time with me. And welcome to anyone who may be new and checking out this podcast. This is predominantly a knitting podcast. Sometimes I may have some crochet or maybe some sewing to share with you, none of which I have today, but I do have quite a little bit of knitting. So I hope that you're settled in for a bit of a chat and a knit or a crochet, whatever it is you like to do, and let's get into the knitting. It has been about 3 weeks since I recorded last, and I have done a lot of knitting in that time. One of the big things that I guess I want to show you is what I'm wearing, which is one of my finished objects for today. And I will have a number of finished objects, a few works in progress, a number of acquisitions, and then I'd like to sort of talk to you about some of the things I've been watching, in particular some podcasts that I've been enjoying over the last few weeks. Okay, so let's go into the knitting. I hope you have a beverage with you today. I have a coffee in my bunny mug. I picked this bunny mug up last year at our local Target, and I just think it's adorable and perfect for this time of year. I hope you've got something to drink and you're ready to talk about some knitting. Okay, I have 3 finished objects for you today. 3, I cannot believe it. My first finished object is what I am wearing. And I was working on this the last time I recorded and was really keen to get it finished before the deadline, which I met with plenty of time. And this is the Botanical Tea by Knititude. It has not been released at the time of recording, but it is the release is pretty imminent. I think in the next week or 2 it should be available for you. But I will link my project page down below in the description bar, and I'll also link anything else that I talk about today, whether it be my other projects or patterns that I may mention and web shops that I may talk about as well. I keep going on tangents. Let's get back to this finished object. Okay, so this is the Botanical Tea. It is a DK weight tea, and it is knit in, oh gosh, I think it's a Vidalana Aloft. Let me find the label. It's the Vidalana Aloft. It's a 48% merino, 20% baby alpaca, 32% organic cotton. It's a DK weight yarn, 274 yards per 100 grams. And this is in the colorway Tiger Lily. Now I might stand up to show you a little bit of it, though I can't move very far here, so I may have to insert some photos. But there you go. So you see my microphone there, but there's a beautiful lace detail at the front. It's a short sleeve construction, and then there are eyelets just towards the bottom half of the back. On me, it ended up hitting me just at the hips, and again I think I'll insert a picture of that. This pattern was an absolute joy to knit, and it was so fast. It's worked bottom up, which is not usually my favorite type of construction, but having said that, I really did enjoy knitting this piece. The instructions are really wonderful. I was able to meet gauge by sizing up a couple of needle sizes, so I do recommend you gauge swatch for this one. Chantel's gauge tends to usually be a lot looser than my own knitting gauge, but obviously everyone's going to be different in that way, and it depends on which yarn you're using as well and how it behaves. But it was really lovely to be able to just follow the lace repeats, which were written. They're not charted, I don't believe, though I haven't seen the final version of the pattern yet. It's a 12 row repeat, which was really intuitive, I guess. After the first couple of repeats, I felt like I was anticipating what the next row would be, which was really lovely. And you work from the bottom up, you split for the underarms, and then you knit flat the front panel and then the back panel, and you join them at the top here at the shoulder seams. It is a paid for pattern, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but the 3 needle bind off is actually a lot of fun, and it just leaves a really lovely tidy edge at the shoulders there. And once that is all completed, you pick up the sleeve stitches and you just essentially put a little tiny cap sleeve, if that's what it's called. That's probably not even the right word. I don't know what the right word is. It's just a tiny bit of sleeve there, and because it is a bit of a boxier shape, it hangs over a little bit, which is very cute. And it's perfect for these sort of in-between months where it's not hot, not too cold. I haven't actually worn it yet because obviously it's brand new. Today's the first time I'm wearing it, but I am finding it's really lovely to wear. Even with the lights and the heat coming through the window, I don't feel too hot in this at all, even though it is a knitted garment. But it is really fun to wear. And it's very breathable with the lace detail and the combination of the cotton that is within the yarn as well. So that's my first finished object. I absolutely love it. I think once this pattern releases, it's going to be hugely popular. I do really encourage anyone who is interested in a summer garment or a springtime garment to have a look at this pattern. It was a lot of fun to knit, and it was so quick. I knit this while I was also test crocheting for another project which I talked about in my last episode, and I was able to finish this and the other project in plenty of time to get FO photos and send in notes. And Chantel's time frame's usually pretty tight, so I'm very happy with how that worked up and how this has how the finished object looks. My second finished object are my March socks. Of course they're finished. Today is, what is it? It's the 5th of April. So these were finished a good week before March was done. And here they are. So for my March Desert Vista Dyeworks socks, I used the lavender, Somebody Lavender Decomp colourway, which is a variegated colourway. Susan usually dyes a lot of self-striping, but occasionally she'll come out with a variegated colourway or version of her colourway, and this is absolutely gorgeous. I really love how this knit up. For these socks, because they're for me, they're a 56 stitch sock on a 2.25mm needle. I usually do a 20 round 2x2 rib cuff. Then I think I did around 55 rows for the leg. I did a heel flap and gusset heel, and then knit down until I did a rounded toe at the bottom. So absolutely love these socks, love how they turned out, and can't wait to wear them once it cools down. I haven't worn them yet, it's been pretty warm, so they will get some wear out of them as soon as the weather turns a little bit, but I love how they worked up. Now I didn't mention, because I mention this every episode, and I will mention it with one of my new cast-ons too, but I'm participating in the Desert Vista Dyeworks 7th annual monthly sock club. I've possibly said that the wrong way around, and I am really enjoying the challenge of making sure I knit a full pair of socks each month. So far so good, 3 months done, and we'll see if I can maintain this for the whole year. My final finished object is a brioche KAL that I have not woven the ends in yet. So it is finished, but the ends still need to be woven in. But this is the chromatic KAL. Oh, it's been folded up. You can see the fold line there, I think. No. This is the chromatic KAL. I knit this in Lovebird Lane Yarns, a Christmas colourway. It's a self-striping colourway here as the main colour. And you can see how the combination of the brioche and the longer rows has broken up those stripes really beautifully. There's no pooling. They just kind of, it looks variegated, which is really lovely because I loved this colour so much when I first saw it. When it arrived just before Christmas, I was thinking to myself, yes, sure, socks would be lovely in this sock yarn, but I really wanted to be able to wear it on me because I just thought it was so beautiful. Now this colourway, what is this one called? You'd think I'd remember it, seeing as I've talked about it a number of times. Okay, so this is Lovebird Lane Yarn, the main colour. It is in the colourway called Mulled Wine, and it is a 75% merino, 25% nylon, 437 yards or 400 metres per 100 grams. It's a fingering weight yarn. And I have this much left. It comes in two sizes in the pattern, a small and a large. And I really liked the idea of being able to wrap this around myself twice. I've made about 3 KALs last year, just the standard sort of size. And I find I don't gravitate to wearing them, but like a looped KAL like this, I think I will get more wear out of it this winter. So I decided to make the larger size, and I still have about 30 grams of this yarn left, which I'm really excited about because I do want to still make some socks out of it down the track as well. I really am interested to see how it'll knit up in the self-striping format that it was intended for after seeing how beautiful it looks in the variegated style format. Now the second yarn that I use, my contrasting colour here, is a discontinued dyer, Ashen Oak Yarns. That's her label there, I've shown it before. It's in the colourway Windsong. This is also a 75-25. It is exactly the same yardage. And I love how that's contrasted on the back there and given it a slightly different tone. And I really enjoyed knitting this, despite the long rows and the brioche taking a little bit longer than your standard knitting because you do have to knit each row twice. I really did enjoy this knit. I spent probably a couple of weeks just focusing on this one. I really wanted to get it finished for a knit along I was participating in with the Love in Stitches podcast. So Knitty Natty, I'm a member of her membership group, or I'm not quite sure what it's called now, Love in Stitches membership, and we had a brioche knit along or brioche along from January to March, and I really wanted to finish this before the end of March so that I could enter this in, and so I did that. I was able to meet that deadline even though I was obviously busy with other knitting at the same time as well. But really did enjoy this. I did attempt to look up some tutorials on one pass brioche where you sort of do the main colour and contrast colour in one go, but I didn't have the headspace to try to modify my knitting to suit that technique, so I just did the traditional brioche, main colour then contrast colour. This pattern is a free pattern. I don't know if I mentioned it is a pattern by Amy Detjen. She has it free on Ravelry. I'll link my project page down below so you can have a look at it if you wish. But it's a lovely pattern and very easy to memorize. I think within the first couple of rows I could sort of read where I was at, so I knew how to proceed going forward. So in that way it was mindless, but in terms of the fact that you're doing a bunch of yarn overs and knits and purls depending on which row you're on, I do feel like I have to look when I knit this, so it's not quite as mindless as say a sock is or something in stockinette, but still lots of fun to knit up. I wonder, is there anything else I wanted to say about this? don't think so. I think that's pretty much it. Now, yeah, I think that's all. I'll move on to the next thing, and I think the next things are my works in progress, which there aren't that many of this week. I've been very focused on finishing this and my test knits and my socks, so I didn't really work on a lot of my older whips, but I have 3 new cast-ons to show you, so let's have a look at those. Okay, my first new cast-on is living in this project bag by the Woolly Tangle. It's got some adorable llamas on it, and I just think it's so cute. It's got a lovely little handle on here, which is very nice. And this is this is the first one of. I find when I'm editing these podcasts, I question my grammar half the time because I feel like I'm going to say something else and then I change my mind mid-sentence and then my grammar sounds really terrible. This is the first sock of my husband's birthday socks. So I cast this on as soon as I finished my March socks for Vista Dyeworks, and my aim is to finish these by my husband's birthday, which is April 16th. Today is April 5th. I have 11 days. So we shall see whether this gets done in time. I do have some other projects that I'll talk to you about in a moment. But I ended up choosing to use this Knit Crate yarn for my husband's birthday socks. This is a Uru yarn unicorn sock. It is a 75% superwash merino, 15% Donegal neps, 10% nylon, 400 yards per 100 grams. Okay, well that makes sense. This is in the colourway Hot Cocoa as well. So the reason I sort of got confused there for a second, I weighed what I have left last night thinking, well, I'm on the foot, I don't have that much to go. I need to do the foot and the toe, the rest of the foot and the toe. And I got a little bit panicked because I've only got about 66 grams left here, which means I've got 16 grams before I need to definitely stop knitting on the first sock so that I have enough for the second sock, which is giving me a little bit of anxiety right now that I may run out of yarn. But I've just realised it's quite a low yardage for 100 grams, and I decided to do quite a long leg, which was probably a mistake. If I had noticed that it was only 400 yards rather than, in my mind I thought 400 metres, that's plenty. Yes, I may be playing a little bit of yarn chicken with this one, but I'm sure I'll make it work. So with this one here, I'm knitting my husband a 72 stitch sock. He's quite a solid guy. He's got quite substantial legs, so he's got about a size 11, I think, foot. He's just quite a solid guy. So I am doing a 72 stitch sock on a 2.25 or US 1 needle. I did 20 rows for the cuff. I've done 60 rows for the foot, and I did a heel flap and gusset on this one as well for him. And now just knitting down the foot before I do a rounded toe at the end. Now I decided to put a little bit of a pattern through it. That might be blowing out a little bit. But I've decided to put a bit of a broken rib pattern through it just to give it a little bit of interest. Otherwise I felt like the yarn was a little bit dull in just plain stockinette, despite the little neps, but I just wanted to give it a little bit of something of interest. So I've done that on the front and the back of the sock. But I'm eliminating it on the foot of the sock. So the foot will just be plain stockinette, but the top will continue in this pattern. I just kind of made it up. I wanted this to be as mindless as possible so it would go nice and quickly. So I didn't want to do the rib too often. So I've spread them out. I tried to make sure it was nice and even all the way around. And yeah, I'm quite enjoying knitting on these. They're going quite quickly when I pick them up, which is nice. Now I'm using a progress keeper here that I got from Lovebird Lane last year. I chose this progress keeper, one, because most of my progress keepers are very feminine, and this is a sock for my husband, and I didn't think a ladybug or a beetle would really work. But I got this cool progress keeper last year from Lovebird Lane during her stay-at-home yarn club that I purchased last year. This progress keeper was sent out as a representation of our lockdowns that happened around this time last year. So late March, early April, we were going through the first of the sort of COVID reality hit Adelaide and Australia. And the stores were running out of toilet paper. So Julianne made this cute little progress keeper. I might show it up close. She included this progress keeper in her yarn club, and it's a little toilet roll, which I thought was rather cute. And it's just reminiscent for me of this time last year when I was prepping for my husband's birthday in lockdown, which was a very different time to where we are now. And we have been very lucky in Adelaide with the COVID situation. We've had a few lockdowns, and certainly April through to July last year was a very isolating time. But things are a little bit more back to normal now, apart from COVID check-ins and keeping social distancing a daily practice, really. Life is a bit more normal now. I mean, we had Easter celebrations with our families this weekend, and we were able to see people in person, which was not a thing at Easter last year. And yeah, I just thought that was quite a timely reminder of where we were a year ago. Yes, my aim is to complete these socks by the 16th of April. Wish me luck, guys, because I have a couple of other priorities that are also pulling me away from this. But I do hope to focus on this during lunch breaks at work in particular, though I have tried to hide it from my husband. I did pull it out last night to work on it and went to be able to make some progress. I was feeling like this heel flap and heel turn were taking me quite a while to get through. So I'm glad that this one's well on its way, and wish me luck that I don't lose at Yarn Chicken. My next work in progress are my April socks for the Desert Vista Dyeworks 7th annual monthly sock KAL? I forgot. That's terrible. Okay, so this month I am using a colourway, and this is Desert Vista Dyeworks here. This month I am using the colourway called Gold Coast. I'll just bring that up so you can see. There it is. Now this is again on Susan's Viso base. It is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 462 yards per 100 grams. And it's a self-striping yarn that is a really pretty colourway. So I chose this one in particular, speaking of COVID a minute ago, our neighbours in Brisbane experienced a lockdown, a snap lockdown about a week ago for a few days. They had a few community transmissions that they were trying to get on top of. And as I was choosing my April yarn, I sort of thought of them and had this Gold Coast colourway in my stash. Gold Coast has a special place for us. We love Queensland. We love to visit there. My husband would love to live there, but we're not living there, obviously. So yeah, I just thought in homage of, is that a word? Homage? As a, I guess, the words today, they are a problem. It just sort of seemed like the right yarn to choose for this month. So I started this one on April 1st. I always try to cast on the 1st of the month. And here is my progress so far. Now this is a 6-stripe repeat. And I am working again a 56 stitch sock, 2x2 ribbing, and working my way down the leg at the moment. I like to knit my socks cuff down. It's just my preferred method. I have tried toe up once before, but I do prefer it cuff down. And I'm just sort of knitting in the round now. Now normally I would have switched my needles out for magic loop. That is my preferred way to knit socks usually. But with this one I haven't. This one I've just kept it on my 9-inch circulars so far. By the time I get to the heel, I will transfer them over to the magic loop method because I do find it's easier when I get to the heel. But I still haven't decided which heel I'll put on these. I don't like to break up the stripes in self-striping yarn, so I'm always concerned about putting in a heel flap and gusset in a way that won't break the stripe sequence. But I will decide once I get there which heel it'll get. It might end up with an afterthought heel again because I do like the look of those the best. We shall see. Now I do have a little progress keeper that I've just put on here today. It's a little llama. And that little llama here arrived from the Woolly Tangle. If you watched last episode, I mentioned that there was meant to be a progress keeper with my llama bag. And that arrived in the mail in the last few weeks, and I thought I'd use it on this project. So these are my April socks, started, well on their way, and the aim again is to finish these by the end of the month. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the project bag that I'm keeping these ones in. So I have realised that I've got too many socks on my needles right now, which is unlike me. I've actually got 3 pairs of socks on the needles. I'm only showing 2 today because I've only worked on the 2 really over the last 3 weeks. But I have run out of sock bags because I'm using a couple of my sock bags for some shawls that are works in progress, and I've put in a couple of orders for sock bags, but they haven't arrived yet. They're getting shipped at the moment. But I do find if you are struggling to keep up with project bags for your sock whips, what I have found works really well are old makeup bags. So this is an old Estee Lauder makeup bag that I actually matched up to match with my Gold Coast yarn. I just thought it looked quite tropical. And it's the perfect size. It fits my skein, it fits the sock project, and that fits in my handbag really well. So that is what I'm using as my sock bag for my April socks. I feel like I'm rushing through things today. I'm not sure if that's the case or if that's just my own perception. But let's move on to my last work in progress, which is also my newest cast on. My last work in progress is living in my Sandy by the Lakeside bag. And it's one that she had available during one of the, oh gosh, I think it wasn't Indie Untangled, I don't remember what it was. It was a special edition specifically for a yarn festival that she released a year or 2 ago, at least 2 years ago, that I picked up when she posted them on her website. And it's a sparkly grey base with a dark denim, almost black denim I think, top, which is really lovely. So in here I have another test knit because apparently I'm on the test knit bandwagon now. I've done 2 this year and now I can't stop. So Knit Love Wool, who is Jennifer Steingass. Australians, we pronounce things differently, I'm sorry about that. She posted on her Instagram a few weeks ago that she was after some test knitters for her newest design, and I applied because I had just finished this test knit and I was itching for another one apparently. And knowing how popular Jen is and Jen's patterns are, I was hoping to be picked, but I certainly wasn't expecting that she would pick me given how much interest there is in her test knits and her patterns. But I did get picked, and I spent last week swatching and figuring out my gauge and the yarn choices, and on Friday, Good Friday I think it was, I cast it on. So this is what I have so far. It's a little yoke and it's colour work. So I feel like I'm a pretty new or inexperienced colour work knitter, so gauge for me was a little bit of a problem. I ended up having to size up a needle size to do the colourwork section because I found it was getting really tight. So I've sized up a needle size here. I feel like my tension is working itself out though. It's looking a lot more even than I expected, certainly from the swatch that I did. It's looking much better. And I'm really enjoying knitting on this. It is so addictive. Yeah, it is so addictive. I can't seem to put it down, which means I'm not getting that much knitting time on my other projects or my husband's sock, but this has a deadline, so I do need to make sure I focus on this one. But I love it. Absolutely love how it's working out. I'll tell you about the yarn I'm using. So for the main colour, I'm using this Finch Yarns Super Soft Sock. It's an 85% extra fine merino, 15% nylon. It is 400 meters to 100 grams, and this is the colorway Waft. I haven't quite caked up the second skein yet. And my contrast colour is actually by a different dyer. I had swatched with a new acquisition that I picked up a couple of weeks ago, which I'll talk about in a minute. I had swatched with this colourway as the contrast, which they look so good next to each other. And this is a colourway called Bracket by the same dyer. And they are beautiful together, but I did find that some of these lighter bits in here were getting a little bit lost with some of the darker bits in there, and the contrast wasn't quite what I was after. So I ended up ripping out that swatch and found something else in my stash. Now this is all stash yarn. I didn't actually buy any of these, but what I did find, well, I did buy these, but I bought them quite some time ago. Actually, the Finch Yarns I think I bought around October last year, and the contrast colour is by a local to me dyer. It's the Seventh Girl. I'll link her shop down below. I'll link both shops down below. They both have Etsy stores, but they're both local to me. And this is a sock fingering weight. I got cut off. So this is the Seventh Girl, and it is the colourway called Nellie Bly. It's looking a lot more royal blue in my viewfinder than it actually is. It's a little bit more muted to my eyes than it's appearing on the screen, but it may look different once I go to edit this. But it is an absolutely gorgeous colour, and I love how they look together. It's actually really lovely to see them knit up together, and the contrast is really striking, which is what I was after. I had tried a few different combinations. I was hoping to make it in this lovely pink yarn I picked up last year, and I had this, I actually did purchase a skein of a contrast colour in a more browny tone to go with the pink, but the contrast just wasn't strong enough for that combination in this particular pattern. I think it'd look great where there's not such tiny detail in the colourwork, where it's more of a blocked colourwork of some sort. But when there's this tiny detail, I feel like you just need a little bit more contrast to really show that up. But yes, that's sort of how it'll look eventually. I'm hoping to finish the yoke well, by the end of this week, really. Today's Monday, so by Friday I hope to be finished with the yoke, taking into account that I have limited knitting time outside of work times, and start on the sleeve separation and then the body next week. Now Jen has made this pattern test quite flexible, in that you can either do a short sleeve or a long sleeve version. So I guess I'll see how long it takes me to get to that point before I make a decision on whether I make this long or short sleeve. I'm sort of thinking long sleeve, but I'll see how I go for time to see whether I have enough time to get that done within the time period. So that is my last work in progress. I don't think I mentioned actually what size needles I am doing this on. So the main body of it is on a 3.75mm needle, and I'm doing the colour work on a 4mm or a US 6 in my Chalgu interchangeable set. And I think it's working up really pretty. Can't wait to actually finish recording and to work on this some more. I am really looking forward to that. So that'll be my afternoon sorted. I just realised my microphone's halfway down my top today. I'm hopefully not knocking it with my works in progress. If I am, I'm so sorry. So sorry about the noise. I just realised it was, well, I knew it was there, but I forgot it was there while I was showing you things. So hopefully it's been okay for the sound. Let's move on to acquisitions. I do have a couple things to show you today. I received the last of my tea yarn club from Rosehip Island this week. So let me show you what I received in there. It's actually a really beautiful package. So if you have watched previous episodes, you will know that I bought a 3-month subscription to Tea and Yarn Club through Rosehip Island. And this week brought the arrival of the final installment of that yarn club. And this is the beautiful yarn that arrived, which matches my top. So the main colour here, this is on the Delicious sock base. It's an 85% Australian superwash merino, 15% nylon, 400 metres to 100 grams. And it's in the colourway A Mad Tea Party. And it's got some gorgeous tones in it. And the 2 contrast colours that came with it. Oh, let's turn it the right way up. We have this red one is A Riddle for Alice, and this orange one is the March Hare. So they're the yarns that arrived. And I've also attached the Progress Keeper that was included in the package. I just attached it to the skein so I wouldn't lose it, but it's so cute. It's a beautiful Alice in Wonderland inspired charm. So cute. Hannah's yarn is just delicious. Hannah is based in Tasmania, in Australia as well, so it's really lovely to have been able to support her with this yarn club and to get some of her beautiful yarn to try out as well. It's actually the first of her yarn I've ever purchased, so I've been really impressed with the colourways and the beautiful goodies and extras in the packages. Speaking of extras though, I'll just show you a couple of other items that were included. She also included this beautiful pin and some cute little stitch markers. The gorgeous bunny pin, and he's running late for a very important date. Sorry, I do love a bit of Alice in Wonderland. And some little kitty cat stitch markers as well, which is handy with the Cheshire Cat. I love the Alice in Wonderland inspiration in this final installment of the Yarn Club. And we also have tea. So this is an energy boost tea. Again, this is from a Tasmanian tea company called The Art of Tea. And I've been loving these teas. They've been very delicious. So this has Siberian ginseng, tofu, cola, licorice root, and organic hibiscus flower. Delicious. Can't wait to try this one. Once it cools down a little bit, it's been a bit warm this week. A bit too warm for tea. So that's the yarn club that I received. And then I also went with my mum to a craft fair a couple of weeks ago, last weekend. I think it was last weekend. We went to a craft fair in Strathalbyn, which is a local town, I guess. To me, it took us around an hour to get there, I think, maybe not even. And we went there specifically because we knew that our friends Finch Yarns, who dyed the yarn that I'm using for my test knit, were there, as well as Purl and Friends, who has this gorgeous little caravan trailer set up for her store that she takes around the city to various events. So we were excited to drive up there for the day and check out the goods that they had on offer, and so we picked up some bits and pieces. Okay, so Finch Yarns always have a beautiful selection of yarns to choose from. We tend to follow them around Adelaide wherever they're trading. Mum and I tend to turn up. So thank you, ladies, for making us feel so welcome and not stalkerish of you both. Whenever you announce that you'll be trading somewhere, we tend to generally turn up. So I saw on Instagram, and I'll link Finch Yarns down below, like I mentioned before, they had posted that they would have some minis on sale when they advertised that they would be at this market, and these are the beautiful minis, and I picked them up. They were the things that I ran to pretty much when we got there. Now there are 5 20-gram minis here. There's no colourway name unfortunately, but they are so pretty. And I couldn't resist. And while I was there, I also picked up a full skein of yarn, which I thought might go really well with it. There is something that I'm planning to make that I will hopefully be able to talk to you about soon with this combination of yarn. This is in the colourway Almond Blossom. This is also the super soft sock base, 85% extra fine merino, 15% nylon, the same base that I'm using for my test knit at the moment. So I absolutely do really love working with this base. I'm finding it's just such a pleasure in my hands. It's really very soft and beautiful and plump, and it's lovely. But I really like the little speckles through here, which I thought pulled a few of these colours, the brownie and certainly that pinky colour, that would look quite nice together if I was to combine them in something. So yes, that was my first purchase of the day. So in addition to that, I also bought this yarn that I showed before, which I think I showed before when I was talking about swatching for my test knit. So I bought this with the intention of making a Musselburgh hat, which I'm not sure if that's what it will become, but now that it's wound up because I was swatching with it, it may become something sooner rather than later, or I may put it back into a hank again, though I doubt it. That tends to take away from knitting time, so I'll probably leave it in this until I'm ready to start on that. But this is in the colourway called Bracket, and this is a She's So Fine Superwash Merino, 400 meters to 100 grams. So I bought those from Finch Yarns and love them. I love the way these ladies dye their yarn. I do have quite a lot of it in stash, and I think it's accurate to say that the first hand-dyed yarn I ever bought was Finch Yarns, but it's taken me 2 years to actually knit something with their yarn, even though I keep buying it. So my stash is full of it. But that test knit that I'm working on is now the first project I've actually cast on with this fabulous yarn, and I'm addicted and will be definitely knitting with more of what's in my stash moving forward. I'll probably insert some footage of that craft fair because I did take a little bit of footage, but I might insert it at the end of this episode. But we also then went and saw our friend Purl and Friends. So we caught up with Jasmine from Purl and Friends, and she had some beautiful yarns available, and Mum picked up some needles, I think, and some accessories for her Chalgu set, and I just picked up a skein of yarn that I probably don't need. But you can never have too much yarn that's kind of a neutral colour, right? So I got this Vivacious 4-ply by FibreBound. It's a luxury 4-ply. It's 100% superwash merino, 365 meters per 100 grams. And this is in the colourway Smoky Joe. It's got some beautiful grey with a bit of brown peeking through there. I'm not sure if the camera's picking up that colour. Now I mentioned that I bought the Finch Yarns that I showed earlier for a Musselburgh hat, but when I saw this I thought this will make a nice Musselburgh hat as well. So there may be 2 new Musselburgh hats in my future, or they'll end up being something else, we shall see. But I do plan to cast one of those on at some point soon. Now that the weather will start getting colder, I will start being interested in having more hats in my rotation. So, and for my husband and my sons as well. So I figure the more neutrals I have in my stash, the less likely I'll struggle to find yarn to make them something with, because I do gravitate towards very feminine colours usually. So this was a lovely little purchase to get for one of those hats potentially. And the last thing that I bought at that craft fair I have left in the kitchen, so I'll be right back. I'll go get that now. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back now and I've grabbed my final purchase, And it is this beautiful handmade pottery mug or cup. I am always amazed by makers of different types and their skills and their abilities, and I just thought this was absolutely beautiful. Now this is by Juji. It's a local, or she is a local ceramic artist, I guess we'd call her. And I'll link her down below as well in case you're interested in picking up something local if you're in Adelaide. That's handmade and absolutely beautiful. I might use it as a decorative piece once I have my dedicated craft space. I'm not actually sure what I'll do with it exactly, or I might just drink out of it because it's actually a really beautiful mug, but it's really pretty. I just thought I'd share that with you as well. It's something that I picked up at the market. So that was a really lovely day to spend with my mum. We drove up early in the morning and spent pretty much most of the morning there. Had lunch there together in the town and went for a walk and just sort of explored and spent some time together. It was a really lovely day. So I guess that brings me to the end of the yarny things. My gosh, I feel like that was quicker than usual. I could be wrong. And I will tell you about some of the podcasts I've been really enjoying watching lately. Okay, I've just had to write myself some notes because there've been a lot that I've found recently and others that I've been watching for a little while that I've been catching up with a bit more as well. And I thought I'd just mention a couple of the ones that I've really enjoyed over the last 3 weeks. 3 weeks between episodes means that I watch a lot of podcasts in between, so this could be overwhelming. But the first one I really wanted to mention was Books, Hooks and Yarn. Crystal, she is an Australian podcaster. She's pretty new to the podcasting scene as well. I think she started around maybe October last year. Sometime in 2020 she started podcasting. She is Melbourne based and I found her a couple of weeks ago. I was home unwell from work one day and found her and binge watched pretty much every one of her episodes and really enjoyed her chattiness and openness and her knitting and talking about the things she was trying to do, and she's doing a little bit of hand dyeing as well as knitting, and I think she crochets as well, but I really have enjoyed catching up on her previous episodes, so I really wanted to mention her. Hi Crystal. I think she mentioned me in one of her episodes and that was really amazing. Did she? Yes, she did. So it was really nice for that shout out, and I thought it's funny that the day that she posted that episode I had just binge watched all of hers, so it was quite serendipitous that she had mentioned me that day as well. Now another new podcast that I've recently come across is the Sugar Folk Handmade Knitting Podcast, Michaela. Michaela is a pretty young knitter. She is a really good knitter though. I really do enjoy her talking about her projects and what she is making, and she's a young mum of some young children, which I can relate to historically. My kids are pretty grown up now in their teenage years, but it's really lovely to, her first episode, her children were there running around, and it was really adorable to have that incorporated into her podcast, that you could see some of the real life that we deal with as parents, which is lovely. So it was really lovely to catch up with Michaela. I think she's got 3 episodes out and I've watched all 3 of those, which has been nice. And then ones that I've been watching for a little while, a couple of them are quite new. Uniko Yarns, Gosha, she is in Bornholm, but I think that's how you say it. But she's actually Polish. Now, I'm sort of drawn to her because I'm Polish. My background is Polish as well. I was born there. We moved here when I was 5 years old to Australia. So it's really nice to hear her accent come through in her podcast and her talk about sending things back to her parents, or her mum, who is still in Poland. And just really lovely to look at her knitting. She is a yarn dyer as well. And she sells her yarn online. I'll link her down below. She is an exceptional knitter. She's super fast. She just pops out a sweater and it feels like a day. And it's just very inspiring to see the amazing things that she creates. She has a little girl as well, which is nice to hear the stories about her daughter, and just really lovely to catch up with Gosha when she puts up an episode. So she's one to check out. I'll link her down below. Then there's Merryweather Knitting. If you haven't seen Merryweather Knitting, you're missing out. Gabriella is in Germany, but she's originally from America, and she is just the sweetest, loveliest person to watch. You just get a sense of joy and calm when you watch Gabriella. She's currently actually on holiday in America visiting her family. She's also got a really young baby girl. I think her daughter's 1, or just turned 1. And so she's not currently posting episodes because she's overseas, but there's quite a few there to catch up on. So I do recommend having a look at her podcast. Another very talented knitter. She just makes some beautiful items, beautiful sweaters, socks. She's gotten into crochet recently, so it's fun to see her journey with that as well. And the final one I wanted to mention that I really enjoyed recently is Free Your Sheep Knitting Podcast. Anastasia, an extremely confident knitter. Her background is in, I think, oh gosh, she's been all over the place. I think she's a pilot, and she's lived in a lot of different countries, and she's got a lot of experience in the Norwegian Danish style of knitting, so a lot of rustic yarns, which is really lovely to sort of hear about how they work up and how she incorporates them into her wardrobe. And her knitting projects are just phenomenal. I do recommend you check out Anastasia. She's got a beautiful calming feel to her podcast as well. So they're just a few that I've been really enjoying lately, amongst others. I might try to talk about some of my recent watches more regularly, because I do really enjoy watching podcasts, and I'm constantly finding someone new or rediscovering an old favorite. So it's a lovely way to spend my evenings when I have time to knit, and I get to listen to these amazing, inspiring makers from around the world. Feel like I'm having a cup of coffee or a tea with them and knitting with them, which is just a phenomenal feeling, to be able to do that with so many amazing, talented people from around the world. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Now, I think that is all I meant to cover today. Oh, I just remembered one thing that I wanted to talk to you about. I'm thinking of starting a knit-along for this podcast. I love a knit-along, and I think I've mentioned that many times, that I like the inspiration that a knit-along brings me. It makes me finish things. Test knitting and knit-alongs inspire me to finish projects, because I have quite a few whips here that haven't been touched in the last few weeks because there's no deadline on them. And that's terrible, but it's my reality right now. If there's a deadline of some sort, I will get it done, generally. So I thought, let's start a knit-along. And my theory is, because my whips are growing so far, my whips are expanding very quickly. I feel like I cast on new projects every time I see you, and I just keep adding to my whip list, which, you know, it's wonderful to have variety in my knitting. I do really enjoy having an option to mix things up, but I also like to finish things, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who has a bit of a pile of things that keep getting forgotten or pushed to the side. So I thought, we're in April now, I thought let's go April and May, to the end of May, and let's do a bit of a whip down. I will check to see if that hashtag is available. Let's whip down 2021. If that is available, that's what it'll be. If that's being taken and being used by someone else, then I will put down on the screen below the hashtag. And let's just make this an Instagram knit along if you're on Instagram. And if you're not on Instagram, let me know your preferred way to do knit alongs. I'd be very happy to set up a Ravelry group if that would work better for you, though I know that that doesn't work for a lot of people at the moment. But I'm very open to your suggestions as well. But let's do a whip down. Okay, instead of whip down 2021, let's try whip down KAL 2021. So I will pop that down on the screen below, and that will hopefully inspire us all to finish some of those lingering whips that we have in our stash. Now, I recommend, if you're struggling to get through anything, 30 minutes of knitting a day seems to work really well as a motivator to actually work on a project for me. This is a concept that I learnt through Nitty Natty, and I've seen the Crazy Sock Lady do this as a regular thing in the mornings now as well. And I have participated in that a couple of times when I've wanted to get through some projects, and it works amazingly. So you just dedicate 30 minutes a day to a project, and whatever you get done in that day, you get done in that day. So maybe give that a try if you're struggling to get on top of those whips. So maybe just pick one at a time and work through that. Or maybe if you have more knitting time, do more. Up to you completely. I'm going to be very relaxed with this KAL. It is the first knit along or craft along that I am going to host, so I'm not going to be super strict on anything here. I think I'll draw prizes based on posts rather than finished objects, because I think it's a great thing to participate in, to just inspire you. So tag those projects, whip down KAL 2021, and we will hopefully clear some of these project bags so we can cast on some new things. So join me, and I look forward to seeing your projects. Life stuff has been pretty standard. We have enjoyed a family-filled Easter weekend, which has been nice. We spent Saturday with my sister-in-law and her young boys, and my father-in-law, and then on Sunday we spent the day with my parents and my sister and her family, which was really lovely. It's just so nice to be able to catch up with family again compared to last year, as I think I mentioned earlier, where we were very isolated and stuck in our own homes. So I know that the rest of the world isn't in that position at the moment, and my heart goes out to you if you're in the place that you can't see your loved ones right now. And I really hope that that situation does improve soon for you, so that you can spend that quality time with your relatives and your loved ones. It's so important, and time seems to go so fast that it's a little scary really how fast this past year has gone, even though at the same time it felt like the longest year ever. Okay, so I'm sure there's plenty more that I meant to say today, but it's all sort of gone out of my mind now. So I hope that wherever you are enjoying yourselves with your projects, you're enjoying your crafting time, you're able to get some crafting time. If you have a young family, I remember when my kids were little, that was not always an option. And really, I mean, I've only been knitting for about 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years now, which is crazy. And I don't know what else to say. So I'm just going to have some coffee, and I hope you're enjoying a beverage too. I think I've said that already. Okay, so I think that brings me to the end of today's episode. I will finish my coffee. I hope yours is still hot. Mine is still hot because I love my little warming tray. So I will enjoy that now that I can start packing up. Gosh, it's such a mess here once I finish podcasting. Any other podcasters out there, do you have any tips and tricks on keeping this craziness at bay? Because it just feels like it's mayhem when I finish. But that is fine. I will tidy this up. I will start editing, and hopefully I can get this episode up in the next couple of days for you. I have had some issues with my laptop being exceptionally slow with the editing process. I think my iMovie's struggling or my laptop's struggling, and it's just taking a long time to get to finalize the editing. iMovie lags constantly. I'm not sure what the goal is with that. Maybe I need some new technology. But I will edit this podcast. I will get this up as soon as I possibly can, and I will not see you in 2 weeks because we will be away for my husband's birthday, but I will record as soon as I possibly can. I hope that you're having a wonderful day today or an evening, and that you're getting a chance to do as much crafting as you possibly want to and can. And I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.